Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. How you doing today? Hopefully well. Rapidly approaching the holidays next week and approaching one of the craziest weeks of football we have ever seen. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, the NFL not caring about competitive balance, the NFL not caring about player health, the NFL not really caring about you. Maybe you think different. I don't know. Having games every day. In the fantasy space, they don't care about us because it's going to be a disastrous week. For the most part, we'll try to keep things on schedule over at FantasyGuru.com and here on the show. This is Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com, Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'm here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Justin Fensterman hosts on Wednesdays. Speaking of Wednesday, we're not going to have a show next Wednesday. That'll be, I guess, the only one we're skipping all year. Maybe we skipped one earlier, too. Maybe the second show we've skipped all year. But we're not going to have a show on Christmas Day. So we'll be here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. But no show on Christmas Day next week. I don't think many people, let's be honest. I know you guys love us and gals, but I know you're doing a lot of stuff on that day. So no show that day. The rest of the week we'll be here doing the normal thing at FantasyGuru.com. What is that normal thing? Well, on Fridays, we talk to Russell Clay at about 9:30 West Coast time in the morning a.m., about 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So he'll be with us in about 25, 30 minutes, something like that, about 30 minutes. He'll stop by, and we're going to talk a little bit about Week 16. Breece Hall, Patrick Taylor, Jerome Ford, Brian Robinson. What does he think of these backfields? And then we'll have some talk with him about some players, some veteran type of players, some younger players, some players with uncertainty with their teams, all that kind of stuff. What are the value of these wide receivers? Quentin Johnston, who can't catch. DK Metcalf, JSN, Jerry Jeudy, George Pickens, who can't. Remember George Pickens? We'll talk about him. I'll just say it now. George Pickens was a game-time decision a couple weeks ago. He was going to play, and then they decided last minute not to play him to give him a week's rest. He's not going to miss his third straight game. So BS that he was a game-time decision. I know the Niners get smashed all the time. Here's the Steelers. He was a game-time decision, and now he's missed 3 games. Anyway, we'll talk about his value in the dynasty scenario as well as Jakobi Meyers. Before that, I'll break down Thursday Night Football. Some positives, some negatives, some great calls that barely made it. We'll talk a little bit about both sides and how that went down. And then some news. We got updates on Mahomes, Kamara, almost entire skill set, still grouping of the Seattle Seahawks. Jaylen, Waddle, George Pickens. I just mentioned I blew the lead story. David Njoku, Zach Ertz, and David Montgomery. Again, I'm Ray Flowers. You can follow me on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all those places. You can cover me or see me at the Ray Flowers. When I'm here with you talking, we're giving you opportunities to listen to everything we've got for free. We give you an hour each day. Tell a friend, spread the word, all that kind of stuff. But we also have a great product over at FantasyGuru.com. And if you want to get involved, it's still time. We can still do it here, folks. Get involved with us over at FG. Right now, we've got the seasonal packages available in addition to the DFS packages, in addition to the wagering packages. All 3 for football. One price, $65 the rest of the way. Every article on football the rest of the way through the playoffs, done. Every chat room open to you the rest of the way, done. Every live stream the rest of the way to you, done. Every article, done. Every ranking, done. Everything. DFS seasonal wagering, all 3 of them for $65. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. The only thing it doesn't include is the Super Bowl betting guide. But you get all the analysis of the Super Bowl, just not that Super Bowl betting guide. So check it out over at FantasyGuru.com. And I've been mentioning this every day. And, you can give yourself the gift of fantasy sports. You can give the gift of fantasy sports to someone else. You like what you're seeing here on the show? Buy a gift card. It's great stocking stuffer, easily put in an envelope for a holiday gift. Maybe, again, you just want to give it to yourself. Because remember, I pulled up the numbers today. If you buy a $25 gift card, we give you $35. You buy a $50 gift card, we give you $65. You can buy the entire package the rest of the way and save $15. You do a $100 gift card, you get $125. You do a $200 gift card, you get $250. So whatever gift card you buy with us at FantasyGuru.com, we give you free money. So you're getting a discount overall in the package, and you're also getting free money. Check it out, FantasyGuru.com/product/gift-card. See it on the screen. FantasyGuru.com/product/gift-card. When I say see it on the screen, again, remember everybody, if you're not watching this live, you always can watch us live on youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, on facebook.com/Fantasy Guru HQ. Both of those places you can interact, leave questions, comments, all that kind of stuff throughout the show. You can have your voice heard. You can also follow us on Twitter X @Fantasy Guru site. Type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network and go to the Fantasy Guru side of things, the website, click on the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. I found it really disappointing, but not surprising. There's a lot going on. Disappointing that there were multiple people in the Discord over at FG yesterday that had no idea that there was a show. I'm surprised by that. We're almost up to episode 300. I post it on my Twitter account every day @TheRayFlowers. It's on Facebook every day. It's on YouTube every day. It's on Pandora and Spotify and Apple iTunes. I post it in the Discord every day. It's in my articles as my sign off at the end. So hopefully, those of you that were surprised yesterday that we're doing this, you're here today, and hopefully you'll enjoy what we have to offer. And again, tell a friend; it's free. Okay, let's start up talking Thursday Night Football. The Broncos defeated they lost to the Chargers 34-27. Teams are now 9-6. Solid game. I think that we'll start out on the Broncos side of things, and I'll say it this way. Jeff Mans called for an Audric Estime touchdown, if I'm not mistaken, and he got a touchdown. That's winning right there, Jeff Mans. Interestingly enough, this situation in the backfield was, as predicted, dicey yesterday. So you got the hit if you played Audric Estime, he scored a touchdown. That's great news. Audric Estime played 13 snaps. That's not good. Michael Burton, who played 10 snaps, had a receiving touchdown. That's not good. Javonte Williams played as many snaps as every other running back on the team. He played 33. Estime 13, Watson 10, Burton 10. So he played as much as all the other three guys combined. He ran 21 routes, which is more than the 16 routes the other three guys ran. He had 11 targets, which is more than the 5 targets everyone else had. He dominated the snaps. He dominated the routes. He dominated 11 targets to the running back. Just doesn't work. I mean, we'll talk about Bo Nix in a second. It just doesn't work. We're throwing that many balls to the running back, especially when the 11 targets lead to 7 catches for 29 yards. There were many people that wanted to play somebody in this backfield yesterday, and I get it. Jaleel McLaughlin was out with the thigh injury. I think it was thigh injury, right? So a lot of people wanted to play these guys, and I said on the show with you all yesterday, I said in Discord many times, I don't want to play any of these guys. If I had to play one, I'd play Javonte Williams. Okay, do I want to do it? No, I don't want to do it. Do I think you should do it? No, I don't think you should do it. The good news is if you played Estime, you got a touchdown. So you got 10.5, 10.8. You got 10.8 PPR points, which I think all things considered is pretty much a win. Another good thing is if you listen to my advice and you played Javonte Williams, which is who I said to play, you got a better point total. He was over 12 points. So the touchdown went to Estime, but because of the 7 receptions in a PPR setup, Javonte Williams was still the better fantasy play. Neither one was a good fantasy play. I think that 12 points for one guy and 10 points for the other guy, that's pretty good. I mean, all things considered, that if you played either one of those guys, that's about as good as you should have been expecting, which is why on a Thursday in a playoff week, you shouldn't have been playing either guy. But they both sort of came through, though, as I've noted there in the numbers, it was really tight. I mean, Estime basically got to carry almost every snap he played. Burton's involved as a pass catcher, and he's scoring a touchdown, which is ridiculous. Williams is dominating everything and not doing much of anything. So it was just a dicey effort, as expected. And hopefully you didn't go in that direction. And if you did, at least you didn't get skunked. At least you didn't get a Jaden Reed 0, right? So you got that going for you. On the passing side of things, Bo Nix, he threw 2 touchdown passes. And I think it's like 5 of 6 games now Bo Nix has thrown a couple of touchdown passes. So there's been a lot of productivity there. He is not doing what he used to do on the ground. He's having a hard time running for 25, 30 yards, which is something that he was really doing a lot of earlier in the year. He's kind of become more of that pocket passer, which is totally fine. We can take 25 yards a week as a bonus. That's nice. And the 2 touchdowns a week, that works. Now, the problem for Bo Nix is, and we saw it last night in particular, he was scattershot. He didn't look great. They scored 27 points, but there weren't a lot of dynamic plays from Bo Nix. He threw 40 passes last night and didn't even get to 265 passing yards. Like, that's not good. He threw 11 passes to Javonte Williams, right? He threw 3 passes to Burton. So 14 passes, 14 went to the running back. Unless you got Austin Eckler or Alvin Kamara or, Saquon Barkley, you can't be throwing 14 passes to running backs. Look at it. Javonte Williams had less than 3 yards a target last night. That's terrible. Terrible. 11 targets, 29 yards. So in the fantasy space, if you played Bo Nix, you're fine because he went 263 and 2. So at the end, this is much like Estime and Williams. Both these guys came through and got what you should have been expecting from them. Was it great? Was it sexy? Was it exciting? Was it intriguing? Was it? Nah. Do you change your opinion on any of these guys heading into week 17? Nah, you don't. Both teams being 9-6 is really interesting for these two squads, by the way. But yeah, that was kind of par for the course for the Broncos. Now, the next guy up for the Broncos, and the only other guy that really was in play for a fantasy start in playoff week here, 16, was Courtland Sutton. And Courtland Sutton, just like Estime and just like Williams, didn't kill you. He had 5 catches for 50 yards on 6 targets. Was 10 points what you were expecting from him? Absolutely not. Was 10 points what the rankings suggested he would get this week? No. So it's not a win at all. It's not even close to a win with Sutton. But he got 10 points. And it's okay. It's passable. Now, the disappointing thing for him is if you look at the previous 7 games, he had at least 9 targets in every one of those 7 games. Last night it was 6, despite throwing the ball 40 times. Which again, that's a problem. You look at his target share in that period of time. His target share is what, 30%? The 7 previous games, Courtland Sutton. 6 of 40 last night. Ugh. I mean, that's 20%. I can't even count. What is that? 6 of 40? No, it's even less. I mean, that's not good. It's the first game in 8 outings. First game in 8 where he hasn't caught 6 passes or scored a touchdown. Again, not a killer at 5 for 50, but it was just there. And that's disappointing. That's 2 weeks in a row now where he's 12 and 10 PPR points. The previous, 6 games, he was averaging 20 PPR points. Not a great time for him to slow down. And again, he's been fine. He scored a touchdown 2 weeks ago. Last night, he was 5 for 50. He's been fine. But yeah, more is expected of him. And I think it's speaks to what I was talking about with Bo Nix, and we got to get this figured out here moving forward with the Broncos. On the other side of things, let's talk about the Chargers. And this one, Justin Herbert did his thing. He threw a pick for the second straight week. It's only got 3 picks all year. Continues to perform very, very well. He's actually had 2 touchdowns and a pick each of the last 2 games. He continues to be very, very successful. He led his team to another victory. They're now 9-6 in playoff hunt. 284 and 2 is an effort we'll take every week from basically any quarterback. Herbert ran a little bit more than we've seen. Maybe his ankle's getting a little bit better, 8 for 28 yards. Still tough to get super excited about him because he threw only 31 passes. And he has to be so efficient on his attempts because that's, there were moments where he's thrown it 22 times a week. Then we saw the moments where he's thrown it 36 times a week. Now he's settled back in kind of in the middle like we saw last night. So it's tough to get excited about him in most matchups because if he's throwing 30 passes, and he's going 248 and 2, that works. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not sexy or exciting. Good to see him run a little bit more last night. I think that there's a couple of big storylines. Let's start out with one of them in the backfield. Gus Edwards. I was wrong about Kimani Vidal. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. We'll hopefully get some updates in the offseason as to why they never really utilized him. I mean, this went exactly as I anticipated. Dobbins started out strong and then got hurt, exactly as I thought it would. I thought, plotting Gus Edwards would get some work, and then it eventually would become the Kimani Vidal show in the second half of the season. It just hasn't. And I'm very surprised, and I don't understand why. And last night it got even worse because, Hasan Haskins catches 2 balls for 39 yards and a touchdown. Like, he didn't have a single carry, did Haskins, but he scored the touchdown as a pass catcher. Why is that target not going to Kimani Vidal? I don't. Why is Hasan Haskins even on the freaking field? He's just a dude. Now, he made 1 cut. Was it a nice cut on the catch? Okay, fine. But he made a cut. It wasn't, when you look at it, he played 13 snaps last night. Vidal played 21. Edwards played 30. So why are these teams obsessed with rotating 3 running backs? I don't know. I don't know why Haskins is involved in the offense. He really shouldn't be. He really wasn't involved in the offense because he didn't get a single carry and only had 2 targets. Luckily for him, one of them was a touchdown. No one's playing him. So the negative is that took away from Vidal. Vidal's game was a nothing burger. He had 5 carries for 24 yards. If he had 5 carries for 24 yards and a catch for 34 yards and a touchdown, and you randomly played him when you shouldn't have, okay, right? But no, you didn't get that. So let's go back to Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards, 14 carries for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns, picking a miraculous, marvelous, spectacular time to have his best game of the season. I don't know if anyone was playing him last night. I don't think anyone should have played him last night. So if you did, count your lucky stars. The 2 touchdowns, obviously. He had a 43-yard run. Take away the 43-yard run. He's not that guy, right? That's a random off. That doesn't happen with him. It's 13 carries for 25 yards. And if it's 13 carries for 25 yards, he then leads the team in rushing yards 1 more yard than Kimani Vidal, and we're right back to exactly the same place we have been with the Chargers, where they can't run the ball for 100 yards. Part of the reason is they don't run the football. Edwards had 14 carries and Vidal had 5, so they only ran the ball 19 times as running backs. They gave a carry to the wide receiver Davis, and Herbert had his 8 carries. But they don't run the football. They don't establish the run. They don't do it effectively. Don't chase points with Edwards. If you're going next week, I think that's right. Take the 43-yarder away again. He ran for 35 yards on 13 carries. Got in the end zone twice. Whoopie-doo. On the pass-catching side, Ladd McConkey, another strong effort. He caught 6 balls for 87 yards. There really aren't ceiling games with him, but there are floor games, and his floor game is 5 for 60. And in an offense that doesn't consistently, move the ball through the air for big numbers, 5 for 60 every week is actually pretty impressive, right? He's obviously the lone pass catcher you can trust on this team. And I say that because, look, we all love Quentin Johnston and the touchdowns. But the dude can't catch. We're a couple years into his NFL career. He cannot catch. We'll talk about his fantasy value with Russell Clay here in about 15, 20 minutes. He can't catch. The last 7 games I was looking at this morning, I think it's the last 7 games, he's averaging like 2.7 catches for 28 yards. So if he doesn't get in the end zone, he's giving you 6 points. And he did it again last night, 3 catches for 18 yards, including a drop that was right here. Right here. For those of you not looking, hands are up right in front of my chest at my chin. That's exactly where the pass was. Perfect pass right in his chest. At least he tried to use his hands. He didn't try to body catch it, but he can't catch. How can you be a wide receiver in the NFL and not be able to catch? I caught better than him when I was 12 years old. Like, he can't catch. Last week, remember Herbert had that interception when he threw a ball up and he did a spinorama pirouette as he was trying to find the ball in the air and fell over? Like, what? On 25 NFL teams, he's the 4th wide receiver. He can't catch. He can't track balls in the air. He's got tremendous talent, and he's been better than he was last year, but he can't catch. Stone Smartt was a disappointment last night. Stone Smartt only had 3 catches for 37 yards. Now, that's a 3rd straight game of 3 catches and 37 yards. There were people that are nervous, obviously, about Hayden Hurst coming back. Hayden Hurst came back, played 8 snaps. He wasn't even on the football field. They had Tucker Fisk on the field for 28 snaps, which was less than the 39 of Smartt, but he only ran 7 routes. So Fisk was out there to block. Hurst didn't play. They just didn't throw the ball to Stone Smartt. So, again, when you're in that Stone Smartt zone, and what did I have him ranked? Let me look at it real quickly here. I think I had Stone Smartt like 16th. Yeah, I had him 16th in my rankings. And, 3 catches for 37 yards sucks, but that's what guys ranked 16th at tight end do, right? And if they don't get in the end zone. So disappointing effort, not getting your week off to a great start if you went with him at the tight end position. Okay, so that's kind of a review of the game, and we do that the day after on Friday. I guess we'll only do it for 2 more weeks, right? Because we only have 2 more weeks of the season, but we'll do that as we move forward. By the way, I hinted at this yesterday. I think we're going to have on Monday, we'll be able to announce the release date of the fantasy baseball guide at fantasyguru.com. Remember, that guide is full season product. So I think we'll be able to announce that on Monday. It's coming. It's getting very close for those of you that are interested in baseball. Back to football. Patrick Mahomes, we've been talking about this. We spent a long time yesterday on episode 297 talking about Patrick Mahomes. The bottom line is he's been removed from the injury report. He's going to play this week. I still really hesitate for the reasons I said yesterday. Maybe Mahomes tweaks an ankle early. Maybe he tweaks it on a play, and they're like, we just can't. Why are we risking this? Maybe they get out to an early 21-3 lead, and they just hand the ball off all game or take him out. Maybe they fall behind, things go catastrophically wrong, and there's a turnover, there's a special teams touchdown, and they say, So there's a lot of outs for Mahomes, even if he's healthy enough to play. There's a lot of outs for him not finishing 4 quarters of football. I'm really struggling with telling anyone to play him this week. But that's a decision you all have to make. Alvin Kamara is not officially out. Now, again, remember the Saints play Monday. He's not officially out. But according to reports, and Nick Underhill, who's covered the team for years, says the injury, and I'm reading the quote, Kamara's injury is more significant than believed, and he's labeled as week to week. That's the quote. It's unlikely at this point in time that Kamara is going to play. If we don't have clarity by Sunday morning, it's going to get dicey but I think we'll get clarity by Sunday morning. As of right now, I'm not expecting Kamara to play. As I've said over and over again, as I've written over and over again, and this is for those of you in the Discord over at fantasygeore.com, because I went in them this morning. More questions about Kendre Miller. Kendre Miller's a top 20 running back. If Kamara is out, you are playing Kendre Miller. Not complicated. The updated rankings will be out later tonight. Jeff Mansell, obviously, he does that every Friday night. Right now, as of right now, my personal rankings at Kendre Miller 18th at the running back position. 18th, 1-8. So if you're asking me in Discord, remember that. 18th is where I have him ranked now. Jeff Mans will update the rankings over at fantasyguru.com, and we'll get you there. We'll get you there this week. All right, talking about by the way, Spencer Rattler's going to start at quarterback. I don't think that's a surprise after last week, but Spencer Rattler is the quarterback of the Saints this week. Now let's talk about the situation with the Mariners. See, I'm in baseball mode. The situation with Marlins, because I'm staying with M's. We go Seahawks, Ray. Situation with the Seahawks is everyone on their team is seemingly dealing with injury. The good news is DK Metcalf is playing. He's off the injury report. He'll be fine. Geno Smith was a full participant in practice yesterday. He's obviously dealing with that knee issue. Ryan Grubb, the OC of the team, said that he took every snap during the session. So, it's thumbs up. I don't think it's officially official, but it's official. Geno Smith's going to start this week, which is good news for Seattle. Howell looked terrible last week. Again, not official, but I would anticipate hearing something official today. Now, the backfield is still uncertain. We have Kenneth Walker, who's missed multiple weeks now with an injury. He is back at practice, okay? And it is seeming like he will return to action this week. That is what it assumed. That's what we're assuming here at 9:30 on the West Coast on a Friday morning. We're assuming that Kenneth Walker will return to action. So what does this do to the backfield? Well, Zach Charbonnet has got an oblique issue. He didn't practice. I think he's been limited the last 2 days, actually. He's been limited the last 2 days with the oblique issue. So at this point in time, we're not certain. We're not positive that Walker is playing, though it looks like he will. We really don't have a good handle on whether Charbonnet is going to play. So Kenny McIntosh might be involved this week. This one is too early to tell. If you picked up Charbonnet, and you didn't have Walker, you just picked up Charbonnet, and you've been riding him through the 3 touchdowns in 3 week, a 3-week touchdown streak, you have to make other plans right now. Maybe it turns out that Walker doesn't play and Charbonnet does. Okay, things can change quickly in the NFL, but right now we're not positive that either one of those guys are playing, but Walker certainly appears to have a better chance of playing right now than Zach Charbonnet. Going to the wide receiver position, Jaylen Waddle's got a knee injury. We all know that. He barely played last game. He stood on the sidelines the whole game. The hope was he'd return to practice. That's 2 days in a row this week, Wednesday and Thursday, where he didn't practice. Yeah. So he doesn't have to practice to play this week. He's been around for years now. He doesn't have to practice. But if he doesn't practice again today on Friday, it's looking more and more likely that Malik Washington will be the wide receiver 2 this week of the Miami Dolphins. As we saw last week when he caught 5 balls for 52 yards, Washington, brings a little bit of juice. He's got some skills that pay the bills, as they say. I don't know why I said it like that. I was channeling my inner Jeff Mans with my voice change. But it's starting to look like that's the way we're going. So if you are desperate, and I don't really know how you are or why you should be if you're in the playoffs, but if you're desperate at the wide receiver position, you want to make a move on Malik Washington right now. I think 5 for 50, where he was last week, is a very reasonable expectation this week. That's actually a little bit better than Jaylen Waddle's been doing for the majority of the season, catching 3 to 4 for 40 yards. But, this is very likely to be a high target game for Hill and Jonnu Smith if Jaylen Waddle is out, because, they'll get Washington involved, but I don't see Washington getting 10 targets, whereas I could always see Waddle pulling off 10 targets. So this season, not many guys are getting 10 targets in that offense unless they're Jonnu Smith. The Steelers we talked about earlier, George Pickens is out. You can't go to Scotty Miller, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin. You can't go to any of these guys. It helps the outlook of Pat Freiermuth just a little bit because, like we talked about earlier in the week here on the show, it's not that there's any similarity between these two guys and their roles in the offense, but it's 8 targets that aren't going to George Pickens, and they got to go somewhere, right? So in theory, target or 2 to Najee Harris, target or 2 to Jaylen Warren, maybe a target or 2 to Pat Freiermuth, in theory. Pat Freiermuth is still that guy that you're starting, much like Stone Smartt last night. You're getting 3-4 catches, you're getting 40 yards, and you're hoping on that touchdown. As I said last week as well, last 2 weeks actually, starting Russell Wilson this week now is dicey as all get out. We've seen it the last 2 weeks. What's he at? 300 yards the last 2 games. I mean, without Pickens there, the offense really grinds down. So it's very, very difficult to trust really anybody on that Steelers offense right now. Najee Harris is a bottom level running back too because of volume. Jaylen Warren, flex option-ish. And then Pat Freiermuth, bottom level tight end 1, high level tight end 2. That kind of play there for the Steelers. Now, speaking of the tight end position, one guy who's always been ranked higher, should be ranked higher, but 17 targets one game, who catches 5 passes for 50 yards every week that he plays, is David Njoku. We talked a lot this week, the last couple of days, about the change that the Browns are making to DTR at quarterback. Taking Winston out to DTR makes us all extremely nervous. As we've been saying here on this show, as Jeff Manza said on his show, the Elite Sports Show, Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. I'm here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm not here on Wednesdays because I'm with Jeff for 3 hours on Wednesdays. As we've talked about here and he's talked about there, DTR's involvement in this offense could potentially be catastrophic. Okay, so starting anybody in this offense, including Jerry Jeudy, who we said earlier this week, top 5 receiver the last, 6 weeks in the NFL, not even the top 30 receiver this week. David Njoku, if he plays, I'm okay with him as a starter because the tight end position is so weak. That being said, I don't know if he's going to play. Didn't play last week because of the hamstring. Hasn't practiced since he hurt the hamstring, actually. Didn't practice last week. Hasn't practiced this week. So at this point in time, the expectation is that David Njoku is not going to play. Let me amend what I said. If Njoku's active after not practicing for 2 weeks, do I want to play him with DTR? It would really come down to a situational thing. Like Craig Calcaterra or David Njoku. All right, I'll go David Njoku. But am I going to play him over Jake Ferguson? Am I going to play him over Dalton Schultz? I just don't think I can at this point in time. Another tight end, Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz has had his moments, right? He's had 4 catch games, 6 catch. I think he had a couple 6 catch games, right? Let me pull him up as I say that because I don't know. I know he had a matchup where he had a couple of 6 catch games. Maybe he didn't, but he's gotten the end zone a couple of times. Bottom line is with Zach Ertz, he's being listed right now as questionable. He's dealing with the head injury, the concussion. He does have 2 games in a row where he had 6 catches and a touchdown. Didn't lose my mind. That's good. It's unclear if he's going to play this week. He was limited at practice, and there are still hoops to jump through, as they say, in order for him to get that certification and get the stamp of approval from a doctor. So at this point in time, again, it's Friday morning, but at this point in time, you have to have other plans. If you have Zach Ertz, be careful. And I've said this, and I'll repeat it here. I've seen a lot of people still doing this. The number one advantage you are going to gain in fantasy football is not carrying a second quarterback. It's not carrying a 7th receiver. It's not carrying a 6th receiver. It's not carrying 2 tight ends. The number one advantage you're going to get is carrying the running back. Okay. So if you have Zach Ertz and you're looking at the waiver wire and there are legitimate options there, don't go add Dalton Schultz and drop, Alexander Madison. Don't do that. Just keep Alexander Madison. Maybe that's a bad example because he's not very good, but you get my point. Like, you're holding on to Tajay Spears. You're holding on to Jaylen Warren. You're holding on to Kenneth Gainwell. You're holding on to Kareem Hunt. Don't drop these guys who you're not using to get a second tight end. If you're going to make that move, just drop Zach Ertz, right? That tight end, that running back can be something. Just look at Kendry Miller. Just look at Isaac Guerrero. Just look now at Patrick Taylor. Like, it happens week after week, right? Look at Zach Charbonnet with Kenneth Walker being out. Like, we can go through this list. Keep the running back depth. Don't go running back to running back if you're looking to make on the waiver wire. Speaking of running backs, and this guy's name came up the other day because David Montgomery hurt his knee. We heard his season was over. Then we heard, oh my gosh, it may not be over. It may not be over, but the regular season is over for David Montgomery. The Lions, according to Ian Rappaport, and this is also what David Montgomery himself said, the hope is that he can work on things, and if the Lions can win and go deep into the playoffs, then Montgomery can return. If you've been holding out hope on Montgomery for the next couple of weeks in the regular season, seems like that's 99.9 no. So go ahead and drop him, as we've been suggesting all along. There is a chance, I don't know what percentage, there's a chance he could return in the fantasy playoffs, but that's not going to help us in the regular season in 2024, which is disappointing because he's had obviously a terrific season. Touchdowns for pretty much every week. Speaking of touchdowns every week, my man Russell Clay always comes to the show and scores touchdowns. He gives great advice. He brings a positive attitude. He's often on the sidelines getting ready to interview somebody in the NFL. I'm looking at him in the green room. It looks like he's got who I think is the league MVP. All he does is score touchdowns. About ready to interview him. So this is big because normally we just get Russell, but now I think we might get Russell and the NFL MVP in 2024. Let's bring in Russell Clay at fantasyguru.com. How you doing, Russell?
I would be woefully unprepared to interview Josh Allen at this moment in time, Ray, but I appreciate you.
Yeah, Josh Allen is the gentleman behind Russell, for those of you that can't see it. Yeah, there he is. He's smiling. He looks kind of funny when he's clean-shaven. I think he's 6'5". Would that be weird interviewing a guy that tall?
I don't know that matters.
Okay.
We'd have to do it over Zoom, Ray. I couldn't be sitting there, little guy. You
right.
know, what's that? Jiminy Glick. You ever seen those?
No, what is that?
Oh my God, it's so funny.
No, Jimmy Cricket, but what's Jiminy Glick? You're pulling it up here. You're not gonna be able to show it on. Are you gonna put it as a background? Or are you gonna like do some massive tech? By the way, Russell Clay joins us every Friday about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. We all look at some of the storylines in the week, and we also look ahead to keeper dynasty leagues because he's our dynasty league guy. You can follow him on Twitter X at Russell J Clay. You can find him here on the show. You can find him on all kinds of shows. And look at this. All right, he is Russell Clay bringing it. Okay, that's not me.
Jiminy Glick.
Okay, that looks like Martin Short.
Go.
That was Martin Short. Okay, so Jimmy, is he an announcer or broadcaster?
That's a bit Jiminy Glick or Martin Short created in the 2000s, where he'd interview people as an incredibly obese man, and they'd all break. They wouldn't be able to it was supposed to be like one of those, but nobody could keep it together.
Did they know it was him? Like it was, or he just randomly went up to famous?
Yeah,
people?
They knew.
Okay,
they know. Yeah.
He's. What is it? Murders in the Building. That's a pretty good. I watched the first season of that with him and Steve Martin. I watched Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Day before Thanksgiving, I think it was. Maybe day after. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, I know. Exciting times. Russell Clay at fantasyguru.com. I want to ask you about some receivers in the dynasty scenario, but before we get to that, some questions this week because it's coming up a lot. If I said the names to you, Patrick Taylor and Jerome Ford, both likely to be the lead backs of their team this week. We're in a playoff scenario for virtually everybody. No one's on bye. Uncertainty with their roles, uncertainty with the offenses. Taylor or Ford, your thoughts?
Yeah, when I saw Isaac Arenda was out, I was super bummed. Probably a good thing for everyone because even last week he didn't look quite like himself, so it probably would have ended with him leaving in the first half anyway. So for those of you that were holding on to Isaac Arenda, I think they saved you from yourself. But the Patrick Taylor thing, it's ultimately the 49ers system. And, I watched somebody post a Deebo Samuel 2021 highlight film earlier today, and they were like, oh, look at this guy back in his prime. And I remember Deebo Samuel as he was busting through tackles, and he was on some of them. Right. But a lot of those were wide open. A lot of those big plays are wide open. And so it is still a great system there in San Francisco. So keep that in mind, whoever it is. Patrick Taylor, a Memphis guy. He was actually, so Memphis had Antonio Gibson, Kenny Gainwell, Taylor, and one other guy, the other guy in Memphis, but I can't remember his name right now. But they had 4 NFL running backs on this group of 5 team a few years ago. And he was one of the main guys there. So maybe he is pretty good. That's my take.
Jerome Ford, any interest there? I mean, we're all worried about DTR in that offense, right?
Jerome Ford looked probably the best he did in his NFL career last weekend. So I'm in generally, but again, keeping in mind with DTR quarterbacking, like you just mentioned, it's going to be gnarly.
What about Breece Hall? All of a sudden, Breece Hall, who has been disappointing and hasn't been utilized as we expected, dealt with some injuries too. All of a sudden, he looks like the healthiest of the 3 backs they've been using. Are we going to be surprised and get 20-plus touches this week? Is that coming out of nowhere for Breece Hall?
I wouldn't say nowhere, but I think we're at the point in the season where the Jets discovered they have no handcuff. They have a mishmash of guys. And for a while there, I do believe they thought Breece Hall was not only going to be a backup, but maybe a duel with Breece Hall. And that has not ended up being the case for this year. So I do like Breece Hall. I've liked him all year. And if you started Breece Hall every week, you've been fine. Breece Hall has not been why you didn't win your fantasy league this year.
Yeah, I think there's a difference. A lot of people seem to struggle with the difference disappointing and terrible. There's a difference. Has Breece Hall lived up to expectations? No. But like I was just talking about earlier in the show today, did Courtland Sutton do great things last night? No. Still got you 10 points. I mean, it's still okay, right? It wasn't the bagel effort. It wasn't 12 rushing yards, that kind of thing. And I think, like you said, Breece Hall, same thing. He hasn't been great, but he's been okay. What about Brian Robinson? He's kind of in that zone too, right? Like, to me, I don't have Brian Robinson on any rosters this year. But if I had him, I would just start him every week. I mean, last week he had like 24 touches, and he almost every week's getting in the end zone. He's kind of a junior David Montgomery. But it seems like I get a lot of questions every week about, should I start this guy?
Yeah, I would just start him. Again, when Austin Eckler was in the fold, it was a problem, and it was becoming more of a problem as the season went on. But he is gone now. He is off. Him and AJ Dillon, Eckler's in the fantasy space, and AJ Dillon's in like the streaming sports card space. So right. I don't know what Austin Eckler's up to, but it's probably something fun and enjoyable. So he's enjoying his time on IR, whatever.
Yeah, we'll see if his career could be over in theory. I mean, he's had a bunch of concussions.
Yeah, and he's fine.
Yeah, he's a fun guy.
And... what's funny? He was a walk-on. He didn't think he thought after his college career it was going to be over. So he's like, I'm playing with house money. And
he likes fantasy too, so good for him. Yeah. Russell Clay of FantasyGuru.com joins us every Friday. He's our dynasty guy too. So let's talk a little bit that angle of things. And I wanted to focus on the wide receiver position. And, we've talked about this guy before, but I can't, man. Quentin Johnston. Last week, he couldn't track a ball in the air and fell over. Last night, ball dead center of his chest, dropped it. I jokingly said earlier, 25 teams in the NFL, he'd be their wide receiver 4. The Chargers got to make a move this offseason. They've got to make a move at the wide receiver position. They can't have McConkey be their only guy. Quentin Johnston, is there any value here? Is there any hope? There's skills, but he can't catch.
It's a weird one. So Quentin Johnston, since his college profile, it's been this weird conglomerate of, this guy's making an amazing catch, or this guy is awesome after the catch if you get it to him on a screen, or he needs to be in a bowling league and not in the NFL. And unfortunately, the lowlights are highlighted so much deeper in the NFL, and that's exactly the case here. So are they going to continue to trust him? I don't know. Josh Palmer's been much more involved in the second half of the year, and I think they trend towards that. They got McConkey. They got Josh Palmer, and ultimately, we saw in the second half of that game, they play defense. And now it was the worst defense in the league for the first half against the Broncos, but they're doing just enough offensively this year. At this point in the year, they know they don't have the guns to score 35 a game. So they're just trying to sustain drives, get some field goals, and get out of there.
Russell, DK Metcalf, he's been more disappointing than Breece Hall and less usable than Breece Hall. Like he's on the edge of being crap. Like, and some of that's injury. They changed the offense up this year. Didn't help him. He's still 6'4", 240 and jump over a building. Nothing's changed. What's his value in a dynasty scenario? I get the sense that in a lot of leagues, people that have him are probably about out. And that seems like a mistake to me.
His problem is there's a wide receiver on his depth chart that's better than him. Mm-hmm. That's his big problem. And the wide receiver on his depth chart that's better than him also is in a role that's much easier to get him the ball. So we know what DK Metcalf is at this point in his career. And before JSN got there, they would still use him close to the line of scrimmage, but now there's absolutely no reason to do that. Geno Smith never really been great at going deep. And because that's the case, now we just have this weird situation where, there's really only room for one guy at this point. Geno Smith, great story. I'm glad he's, reclaimed his career.
Right.
He's not a good quarterback overall. No. And he was never really someone that was going to sustain 2, 3, 4 fantasy relevant guys. The running backs are fantasy relevant, and now we have JSN, and it just sucks all the upside out of this offense. So they need a quarterback, or they're going to get this coach fired, and then they're going to be on to something else. So I think the Seahawks need to be in a market for a quarterback this offseason. That's the real problem there.
And by the way, DK Metcalf turned 27 a week ago. He's 27.
Yeah.
In the last 4 years, he's either gone for 1,000 yards or caught 12 touchdowns. I'm just saying, and again, kick the tires there, because I think there's a lot of people, despite the negativity that Russell accurately, people are like DK Metcalf into the sun, right? So just check that out. Jeudy, the last 6 weeks has been, I think, number 3 in a PPR setup at the wide receiver spot, maybe number 2. This is the greatest run of his career, finally living up to expectations that were on him years ago when he was drafted after that strong college career. They're about ready to go to DTR. It's all going to go in the toilet. Jeudy went from, being a must start to a guy that, like, are you even starting him this week? Probably not. If you can make a trade in the Dynasty League, is now the time? Like, is it ever going to be better than this for Jeudy? We don't know officially who the quarterback is going to be for the Browns next year. Is it even going to be Watson? Or this whole offense is up in the air. What are we doing with Jeudy?
Imagine, Ray, if they go back to Watson next year. People will riot.
And again, we all said it when they signed him to the contract. It was freaking stupid. And it's played out exactly that way. Now, he's been way worse than anyone anticipated. Like, we always thought on the field to be okay, right? But his career left when he got the massages. It's just gone. And I mean, yeah, they probably would, right? It's kind of like the Kirk Cousins thing now. These teams sign these aging quarterbacks to gazillion-dollar contracts and just have to eat it. So what are we doing with Jeudy with the uncertainty?
So in terms of Jeudy, in particular, I'm actually still very high on what we have from him. The only issue lingering is still the injuries. So we're getting a fully healthy year. And sometimes we do see this. I'm not accusing Jeudy of, getting healthy to get a contract and then firing off. Mm-hmm. But we do see guys have career years get paid and then they're back on the injury list. This is the first fully healthy season of Jeudy's career going back to college. So something smells a little spooky to me here. Talent-wise, I have no doubts anymore. It's there. We've seen it. Almost regardless, if there's a competent quarterback, he's going to make fantasy relevance. But DTR is not a competent quarterback, especially as a passer. Maybe he can survive as a runner, but we have not seen that yet by any means.
Russell Clay at fantasyguru.com. George Pickens, I said this earlier in the show, George Pickens was supposed to be a game time decision. And now we're looking at a third game in a row he's missed. So
yeah,
they're real honest about his health situation there. But to me, Pickens, he's so interesting because the offense really, with the way it's constructed right now, really doesn't work through the air without him. He's really the only guy they can, do anything offensively with, especially over the top. He's a phenomenal talent. His body control, his ability to high point footballs, it's fantastic. But now we got injuries creeping in. We know he's a diva / time bomb waiting to explode. On an almost weekly basis, he's getting penalties and doing. What do we do with George Pickens? Is this going full Antonio Brown? Is it time to get out? Do the skills outweigh the concerns? Like, how do you view him in the dynasty setup, Russell?
I'm still very in, but it's been hell. We have a guy who is 10 out of 10 skills-wise, 10 out of 10 talent-wise. But even in these games that he's playing, number one, he's one of the best receivers in the league at getting pass interference called. So that is a problem for fantasy because he's getting these 40, 50-yard chunks and we're getting absolutely nothing for it. So that is a problem. Also, the deep threat thing is only good with Russ Wilson. I don't know how long he's going to be there. If they do end up going to a different quarterback or they do go back to Fields, we saw it wasn't quite the same. So I love George Pickens, and I'm going to keep him high in the dynasty ratings over at Fantasy Guru because I think he's an immense talent. But it's been frustrating. The talent, the fantasy points are way off from what the skill level is right now. Even when he was playing, even when he was scoring 15 points a game, it was like, God, this should be 25, Mm-hmm. So.
Well, It sounds like there's a movement toward bringing Russell Wilson back. And, Steelers steam into the playoffs yet again. They never lose. They've been over 500. Was it 500 or better in 21 straight years, like tied with the Cowboys the longest ever. They're not changing. Like they're not going to, next year all of a sudden they're going to change the way they run this offense. He's still so talented. You're just okay with it. Cause I kind of look at it and I think, what's a great season for him? It's 78 catches for 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns. Like I can't see him catching 100 passes. I can't see him going for 1,400 yards and having one of these elite fantasy seasons because it's just not the way the offense runs.
Elite fantasy seasons, probably not, but the trade market is a unique one for him. I don't know that people are banging down the doors to get him anyway. Right. And the talent does not match the trade market. So that's more why I would hold than anything else.
What about Jakobi Meyers? He, for the long time when he was with the Patriots, was the guy that played and never scored. Then he signed a big contract with the Raiders, and we're kind of like, well, that was kind of weird. Then he, was a nice complimentary receiver. Okay, cool. Then they move on from Davante Adams, inserts himself now. I don't think anyone really looks at him as a wide receiver 1 in the NFL. I think he's still looked at as a complimentary guy, but he's been very productive. What's his value? He's not a young guy. It's unclear what direction this team is going to take, the Raiders. There are rumors that they might, be drafting a quarterback this year. We don't know who's going to be under center in week 1, et cetera, et cetera. It's really nice to get 5 or 6 catches for 68 yards every week. I know a lot of people like to complain about it, but in 3 wide receiver leagues, that's really nice. Is that just what he is? Are you concerned about him being that guy moving forward?
He's just old Khalil Shakir, right?
Kind of, yeah.
He's just old, not valuable Khalil Shakir without Josh Allen. But, I mean, he's been producing with garbage at quarterback. No offense to the Raiders guys. If you guys are watching, Aiden O'Connell, if you're watching, it's nothing personal, my friend. But, it is what it is. He's stuck on this Raiders team. And quarterback play, lots of rumors they're going to be drafting a quarterback this offseason. He's a guy that could help a young quarterback grow. You look at Adam Thielen in Carolina, very similar. Is he the talent Adam Thielen was in his prime? No, but can he be a slot guy for a young quarterback who they can rely on? Absolutely. And I think he's proven that. So he's worth nothing in Dynasty. But like you said, to your fantasy lineup, to a best ball league, to a season-long league, wide receiver 3 with upside, 800, 900 yards, I'm in.
Russell Clay at fantasyguru.com. By the way, before we get to some comments in the chat room, what are you doing now? College football, you still going on here? We still got things. We got bowl games and such. Are you involved in a lot of that, Russell?
It's still going on. Our content is slowed down for the year, but there's still a lot of college football shenanigans going on.
So you're covering that. You're in Discord articles. I saw Scott Bonner talking about it the other day too. You're obviously doing the football stuff as well. For the Dynasty, talk to us about the updating of that. Like you were mentioning, you're still having Pickens really high. How often do you do that? Is it change once the regular season is over? Is it the same? Is it every week? Is it every month in the off season? What do you do with that?
So the ratings update every week. In terms of that, the 2025 draft class is coming. And so over the next couple weeks / months, I'm going to start adding rookies to the player pool. And this can be challenging because we do not have draft status yet or combine or anything.
Right.
But when you're talking about the top guys, we already know who they are. And quite frankly, there's a lot of guys that emerge as the season goes on, but we know who these guys are before the season starts. We knew it was Shedeur Sanders, Tatora McMillan, Arizona guy, Luther Burden, the Missouri wide receiver, and then Ashton Janty, the Boise State running back. So all those guys have actually been in the ratings for a couple months now, but this is where we start to add the more complicated piece of maybe guys who emerged throughout the season and more questionable prospect profiles. So that's what I am working on right now. But yeah, it's it's a quieter season right now in the dynasty space.
How surprised were you yesterday, by the way? We'll get to your comments here in a sec. How surprised were you yesterday when we had a user in Discord say they could still make trades? Like, you can make trades in the fantasy playoffs. To me, that's borderline insanity. You can't allow trades in the fantasy playoffs.
There's a large debate in Dynasty over if you should have trade deadlines or not. And the argument against it is it technically is an advantage to the young players or young teams because people use this silly logic like, oh, it's the advantage to the teams that are rebuilding because you can trade. But the reality is, and it was said very eloquently a few months ago by Jacob Sanderson. He did a live on this whole topic, and it's like, no, because all the players that have all the teams that have players that these contending teams would want are not going to be the bottom tier teams. They're going to be like teams that just missed the playoffs or teams that just got knocked out.
Right.
So it's just a loop of it's totally, playoff trading, Jack. It's so I just think it's a disingenuous way of trying to make contenders a loop every year and keep them contending every year.
I mean, I'm leaving the league next year. Give me Joe Mixon. Give me Derrick Henry. Give me DK Metcalf. Here's all my young guys. Audi 5000 with my championship. Like, it just seems, I don't know. Just seems kind of dumb to me. But
yeah.
Russell Clay at fantasyguru.com. Tyler S. has got a question about kickers, our favorite. Kicker question. Does the rain hinder kicker in Seattle? I can pick up Ryland. I only mention this because Prater is kicking this week in practice for the Cardinals. I don't know that we've definitively seen that Ryland's going to even be the kicker this week. And again, maybe I'm, and I don't think it really matters. We'll just go to the waiver wire and grab a kicker, right? But I can't recommend anyone from Arizona at this point because I don't know for certain it's going to be Ryland. Or am I reading that situation wrong, Russell?
I'm at the point in my fantasy life where maybe I'll lose a few points to not have to deal with a questionable kicker.
Mm-hmm.
That's just where I'm at in life. I'm just saying I'm not dealing with that, Tyler. I'm just firing off a different situation and going from there. What do you think, Ray?
Yeah. I'm so tired of kickers. Mike Horn does a great article every week. So if you're with us at fantasyguru.com, it's the best, and I'm really not saying this because he works with us, but it's the best kicker article I ever seen. So we've got the guy to help you answer the questions on kickers if that's your thing. I think having kickers in fantasy football, as Jeff Manza said over and over again, is passé. It's not 1998 anymore. We need to move on from kickers. They're useless. We're all guessing. It's the variance game. How many times have you lost or won a matchup because your guy randomly had 4 field goals or the other guy had 4 field goals? Just get rid of it. That's my thought on that. Derek G says, nice tree, Ray. That's my tree from last year behind me here. I have a Christmas tree. You have Josh Allen. Do you have a Christmas tree up? Is that something that you celebrate there, Russell?
We have, and by we, I mean me. We have a little mini Christmas tree that I bring out and I place and I add an ornament every year. So this is year 3. So we're going to get our 3rd little mini ornament. So yeah, we got
like 18-inch.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. Just a mini fella.
Little Charlie Brownish kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. Nice. I asked that too, because Justin says Merry Christmas to us both. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate that. I need some help with the flex. Shakir, Swift, Ford, or Algier. Now he's starting Bijan Robinson. I don't, just in theory, I don't want to start 2 running backs in the same team, but I would say not this week though, because Michael Penix coming in. There's uncertainty there with Michael Penix. We talked about Ford earlier. We talked about Shakir. We haven't mentioned Swift. 0.2 points a carry. That's not what you're going to get 2.5 points from Swift. So it doesn't really change. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking Shakir's the guy, but that's me. What do you think of that group?
I'm locked in on Shakir, and Ray, is it over for Debo?
Would I bench Debo or DK for any of the above? I would play DK and Shakir. I would not start Debo.
I think I'm out.
Yeah, and I've got him in my dynasty league, and it ended quick.
I think I'm out. They tried last week. They tried, Ray. Nine opportunities,
Yep.
7 targets.
Yep.
Dropped a wide open touchdown.
Yep.
3 yards on 2 rushing attempts, and then 16 yards on 3 catches. And that's the second game he's had. His same thing against Buffalo. Hasn't had above 25 receiving yards since November 10th.
Yeah.
Against Tampa. So I think I'm out.
What about Penix? I should have asked you that.
Oh yeah.
This week, not long. This week, Michael Penix, quarterback 15, 20, 25. What do you think?
Yeah, 15-ish with upside.
So you think he's a solid quarterback too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a guy that even perception wise, he's actually more of a pocket guy. He's a distribute the ball. So he's going to be fine.
David P's got his question for us, and Kendry Miller, who's in every discussion. He needs 2 guys, Kendry Miller, Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf. For me, I'm leaning toward DK being out of this trio. Still not certain Geno Smith is going to quarterback like we talked about. Should be. Still not certain about the backfield. So of those 3 guys, Miller, Wilson, and Metcalf, are you leaving Metcalf out? And then secondarily, what are your general thoughts on Kendry Miller? I said earlier in the show, he's my running back 18 right now. What are your thoughts on Kendry Miller? Because it looks like Kamara's going to be out.
Yeah, Miller and Wilson out of those 2. And then Spears, the interesting thing last week, so Spears really started to thrive when Mason Rudolph came in. second team mojo there. So I would look to him as a receiving threat PPR guy. If that is the case, and if Pollard is out, as things currently stand, I'd go Miller Wilson.
Kyle says, Ray, festive holiday sweater, looking good. It is. It's my AT-ATs and TIE fighters from Star Wars. You have a little tree, Russell. Do you have a ugly sweater?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Not just an ugly sweater, an ugly holiday sweater. I'm sure.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, I got a lot of ugly sweaters, but
do you have a holiday sweater that's ugly too?
I don't even know if it is Christmas themed. It is red, but it's very ugly.
That's fine. Looking at a lot of people having comments. Mark says, do we transition back towards baseball after New Year's? Yeah, we'll start. Yes, to answer your question, we'll still be doing football, of course, but yeah, we'll start to spin some baseball in there. And again, Mark, we'll be announcing next week the target date for the draft guide for fantasy baseball. So there you go. And as Sean said, you're telling us there's a chance. Yes, there is a chance, Sean. Rick says, needs one. Mooney working with the quarterback in his first start. Downs working with, I guess, a quarterback technically. And then Thielen working with, I guess, a quarterback technically. Woof in terms of quarterback play. But Thielen, Downs, or Mooney, my money's on Thielen. What about you, Russell?
Yep. Thielen would be the play here. Downs, he's awesome. It's just the AR roller coaster is all time. This is moving into all time roller coaster. And then Mooney, we don't know. And that was more of a Kirk Cousins thing. I think they're probably going to focus on London Bijan and Charlie Warner. There.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
John G says, not to be that guy, but McLaurin versus the Eagles defense scares me. Don't worry, John, you're not that guy. Because unless you're also using like 10 different screen names in Discord, because this question has come up over. Did you know we only caught 2 passes for 10 yards the last time they played? I don't know. I didn't know that because no one has ever mentioned that over the last 4 days. Terry McLaurin for me is an auto start. That's me. Okay, I'm not getting to the semifinals in the fantasy playoffs and going rogue. Shakir is a good start. So this is at least, it's viable, okay? But again, Shakir is a must start. 2 wide receiver leagues suck. If you have 5 top 25 wide receivers, doesn't really matter who you play. What are your thoughts on Terry McLaurin specifically? Because this question keeps coming up.
I get it, but I don't care. That's my answer. I'm starting him. I mean, how many matchups this year? He has a quarterback now. So everything, I get that, it hasn't been perfect against Philly, but a lot of the imperfection against Philly in his career, we saw what Sam Howell looked like last week. It's just, he's been dealing with hell. So break the trend.
Eric S. says, happy holidays. Same to you, Eric. Really appreciate that. Rick says, Merry Christmas. Same to you, Rick. Jack says, Mike Horn's article is great. It is. It's fantastic. If kickers are your jam, check out Mike Horn's article over at fantasyguru.com. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get the seasonal, DFS, and wagering. All 3 packages. Rest of the way for one low price. Check it out. And you can also get the gift cards. We talked about it earlier. Get those gift cards. fantasyguru.com/product/gift-card. And you get the free money. You spend $50, we give you 65. You spend 100, we give you 125, et cetera, et cetera. Final question for you, Russ. Looking at this one here from Jack. You wouldn't play Patrick Taylor over DK or Shakir, correct? I mean, it's a tough spot here. Shakir to me is the safest. I never want to bench DK Metcalf, but I'm in 14-team leagues where we start 3 wide receivers, so I never would. And then we got Patrick Taylor, who we all believe will be the lead back for the Niners, but we're not. I mean, just because he's the lead back this week doesn't mean Abanikanda or, Keyshawn Vaughn even aren't involved. I'm not looking at Taylor and thinking he's getting the 20 touches that we usually expect from a Niner running back. So Taylor, does he start over DK or Shakir for you?
So I would probably go Taylor over DK, but it's more due to they're rushing Geno Smith back, and he was hurt last week. He was really hurt. So I don't trust that he's back. And if we get a half of Sam Howell the way he looked last week, we're kind of screwed with DK here. So I'm taking the odds risk and just going Taylor and saying, okay, he's going to get 15 touches in that 49ers offense, and then going with Shakir.
Also play at fantasyguru.com. You can find his advice. He's always in Discord answering questions, sometimes making funny comments, as he was doing frequently yesterday. At least I thought they were funny. I don't know if everyone else did.
Trying to lighten the mood. Didn't work, but hey.
I thought they were good, personally. But yeah, he's always in Discord. He's writing articles. He's covering college football. He's covering seasonal football. He's covering dynasty football for us over at fantasyguru.com. He's here. He's got the circus show in a couple of minutes, right? You're still doing that?
Hold on, Ray.
Oh, okay.
Let's
I don't assume that's for me. It could be for Josh Allen.
Let's take a look. What do we think?
It's very, yeah.
Pretty close.
It's pretty close. And almost Wally could be Josh Allen too, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where's your part though? Turn your head to the side. Your part's on. Yeah, same side too. Okay.
Pretty good.
I watched Leave It to Beaver every day growing up. Did you ever watch it?
Did you really?
Every day at 6:30 in the morning. Yep.
I did Gunsmoke.
Oh,
Gunsmoke,
okay.
and what was the woman detective in the 80s show?
Angela Lansbury.
Yeah.
Murder, She Wrote.
Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah. My lady. That was what she used to watch with her grandmother. So yeah, really? There you go. Yeah. All right, Russell. I was just going to say you're doing the circus show in a couple minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess he's never cutting his hair again, and he's going to look like the Bee forever. Only Christmas episode. All right. There we go. Russ, thanks for your time today. Appreciate it. How about we do it again next Friday? What do you think?
Sounds great.
All right. He's Russell Clay. I'm Ray Flowers. Remember, we'll be back next Monday here at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for the show. We'll review all the Sunday game action in the NFL. We'll have shows Monday and Tuesday. No show Wednesday on Christmas Day next week, but Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll have you covered here on Fantasy Sports Daily. For Russell, I'm Ray. Good luck in semifinal week in fantasy football. We'll be back on Monday. You're watching Fantasy Sports Daily or listening to it. Either way, it's powered by fantasyguru.com.